Hello, everyone. My name is Chet Whye, and Carleen's eldest brother. 4 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I caught a fish alive. Carmen and I were bouncing around for about 5 years before Carleen came. And I remember the day my sweet mother brought her home, and she was such a joy. And she always had this presence about her, a smile that would light up a room. And, it was just a wonderment. She was a special kid. And one day, she loved going to school when she first started school. And one day she came home from kindergarten. And she would always come home from kindergarten with this great news about everything she had learned. As a kindergarten student, and would give us an education when we got home in the kitchen. So she came home one day and she said, I learned a new song. I said, go and sing. She said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I caught a fish alive. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I threw him back again. Why did you let him go? Because he hurt my fingers so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I caught a fish alive. And then there was this other day she came home and she said, I got a boyfriend. So you got a boyfriend? And he said, what's your boyfriend's name? And she said, Brighton. Brighton? Brighton is your boyfriend? Now, at first we were, kind of astounded that she was in kindergarten. She came home with a boyfriend. Secondly, that in our rough and tumble, still East Baltimore neighborhood, Marvin Avenue, that in that area, there was this poor little guy whose parents had the audacity of naming him Brighton in our neighborhood. So we laughed and laughed and laughed, and then we asked the next question. What's his last name? And she looked at us like we were kind of silly, and she said, Shiny. Bright and shiny. So we saw where this was going. So we're pulling ourselves up off the floor, and finally we asked the question, where does Bright and Shiny live? She got back, she looked disgusted at this point. Up in the sky. That's the light that she gave us in our lives, throughout our lives. The trials we went through, the trials she went through. She managed to pull us through and to pull herself through. And she was an angel to us. And, finally God brought her home. But I got back to the East Coast Labor Day. And I've been visiting, and she felt about Labor Day. And she never really got out of it. But it was one day that I was back. It was just me and Carleen in the apartment. She's in bed. And she saw that I was having a bad time. I was in the kitchen. I was fixing her something. And I was just having some problems. And I tried not to show it, but she sensed it. It was my sister. And she said, well, I need for you to do something. And she's in her bed, and I'm walking around, and she says, I need for you to come pray with me. She wanted me to come pray with her. Well, here it was, I'm standing up, walking around, and she can't get out of bed herself. And she's looking after me. And I went over to her, and I held her hand and prayed with her. And it was a prayer that I did spontaneously, but I was reminded of my faith and how my faith got me through it. But there was this angel that connected me to that in the room. And I was lifting, I wasn't feel sorry for myself anymore. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. So she was the one who took care of my parents when the rest of us moved up to Montford Avenue. She took care of them. My father used to call me in Denver every Sunday, and we'd talk. And, he was at home, and everybody else was at New Thomas. He said, that bookstore was in motion. So he said, I asked Carleen when she was going to leave. And she said, I ain't never going to leave you. I'm going to be here. I ain't never leaving you. And I bet right now she's up there giving him the business. But it's sort of like now. Some people touch your lives in such a way that they never leave you. Even when the Bible is buried. You have this connection to them, this tie to them, I still have my father's clock, and he sits on the sill where I can reach it in the morning. And in the wee hours in the morning when I'm saying my prayers, and there's a silence in the room, I hear tick, 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 like his heart is still beating. And I talk to him every day. And with Carleen, it's the same way. I'm fearing her. I'm never letting go of her. And as she would say, I ain't never leaving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Help me out. I caught a fish alive. Rest in peace.